I've been listening to men giving me feedback, leaving comments, and I've been hearing their pain. I've been hearing their discouragement when it comes to women. And I didn't know what was happening when I hear men say, I can't ask a woman out because she'll call the police. And it wasn't just one man, it was many men. And it was something that was happening to men that I couldn't understand. And I attributed it to the Me Too movement, but it's much deeper than that. It's much deeper than that. I came across some interviews. It started out by watching Jordan Peterson's wife interview a former English professor from Canadian university, Janice, I don't want to mispronounce her name, who is now an anti-feminist. She calls herself as being radicalized in graduate school, but I think because of her healthy relationship with men and the way she grew up, she started gradually distancing herself from that. And as she was teaching young men in college and teaching them, um, having to teach them that they, were the bad patriarchy and they were the reason that women were suffering. And she had these wonderful, innocent young men in her classroom who just wanted to love women, who just wanted relationships with women. And she started realizing how the ideology was just off. And it had permeated the university so much that even people, other professors at the university who didn't agree with the angry feminist radical ideology wouldn't speak up because they didn't want to be ousted, that there are not that many men even at the university teaching. And now I understood suddenly, and this only happened a couple days ago, the light bulb went on for me finally, as to why men aren't going to college as much as women. It's not a welcome place for them. Apparently, women can form social clubs at the university, but men cannot. They're taught from the time they get to college that, they shouldn't rape women or abuse women, when college rape rates are actually very low. And that's why rich people are still sending their young daughters to college. There has been a war against men that is fought by a very extreme group of women who have infiltrated really the educational system, the media. If you look at when I was growing up, the movies about men were always like the Leave It to Beaver father. And over the years, the men became like Raymond, bumbling fools. There has been a war on men that has silently been going on, and that's what men are picking up on. They've been taught that they're bad, that all the problems women have are due to them, that their natural desire for women is evil and wrong, and it's very toxic. That, guys, we have to wake up. We cannot buy into like this fringe group of women that have infiltrated our educational system and the media to shame you. They've shamed you, and you can't allow it. I'm going to play a few clips from her. Like, she's just so moving. I hope I don't get any YouTube strikes, but let's see. Let's see what she has to say here. Sorry for my very basic way of making these. There we go.
Well, as soon as I started speaking in public, I got a lot of emails, an incredible number of emails, mostly from young men, some from men not that young, talking about their experiences. And it blew me away and I know Jordan's talked about this too, but the amount of pain that there is out there, the number of young men who just they love women in most cases. They want to have a happy relationship. They've never intended to hurt or oppress anyone, and yet they're told that even without intending to, they do, just by looking at a young woman, or asking her out on a date. They're doing some sort of violence. and the pain that that has caused, and the uncertainty and the confusion and the resentment as well. It's, and some of these young men have themselves been abused. Their parents, sometimes their mothers, have been abusive, or girlfriends, and yet they're in, they have to hear over and over again about how it's only men who are ever abusive. And yeah, it's amazing to me. Like, once you go down the rabbit hole or whatever it is, and you see our culture from the other side, and every time you turn on the news, there's yet another story about, whatever, the terrible problem of catcalling and how it represents, the deep misogyny of North American culture and what needs to be done about it, and, all that kind of thing. It's astounding. So now I sort of feel like, with my videos anyway, that my role is to at least to say to young men that you're not crazy. Our culture is actually crazy.
All right, so let's talk about this crisis in masculinity. Is that the right way to phrase it, do you think?
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
That'll work.
I think she makes a compelling case. So that's what's happening. There's been this undercurrent that's been going on through affirmative action and through messaging. And yes, I'm aware of it too. Women are not oppressed. There is no wage gap. There is a gap in pay depending on which career you choose. There is a gap in pay if you take time out of the workforce to be a mother, but there is no pay gap. There is no, women are not victims anymore, and there is a lot of satisfaction. Janice also talks in some of her other videos. I spent about 2 hours listening to her videos about the even the satisfaction she felt in graduate school, when she calls herself as becoming radicalized. There is a satisfaction that we feel when we're a victim. There is, even my rant videos, I try to be very careful with that energy. I've been wronged. I'm a victim, and that's what they're feeding off of. These women, these are these Karens. And now these radical groups, whether they're the feminists or they're the MGTOW guys who maybe were responding to the feminist movement, it's not healthy. And now some of these women are really discouraging women from being mothers. They're really pushing abortion, not in terms of this is something you can do if you accidentally got pregnant early on, but in don't have children. Anyway, now I want to keep this about the men. I also came across something on Bill Maher. So that first clip was from Dave Rubin. I'm going to put these in the description of this video so you can watch the full videos if you wish. I came across a clip on Bill Maher where Scott Galloway was talking about the crisis of men. This is important, and hopefully I don't get YouTube strikes. I don't know if I'm allowed to just copy these, but hopefully I will. So here's the next clip. And forgive me, I'm not like very high-techy. I'm just like using this phone and videoing off the other phone. So just bear with me here.
Racism and hatred because they're lonely and lost and feel that they are not useful in society. How did we get there?
The most unstable nations in the world have one thing in common, and that is they have too many lonely, broke, and alone men. It's the most dangerous person in the world. Salman Rushdie wasn't attacked because of the fatwa. He was attacked because a guy was living in his mother's basement. We have a crisis among young men, and it starts at a young age. Young men are twice as likely on a behavior-adjusted basis to be suspended. 7 in 10 high school valedictorians are women. For every two female graduates from college in the next 5 years, you only have one. The scariest stat, walking down the avenue that is America, only 1 in 3 men under the age of 30 have had sex in the last year. And you hear sex and your brain fires. But the bottom line is, it's a key step to the elemental foundation of any society, and that is relationships. Young men aren't attaching to work. They aren't attaching to women. They aren't attaching to schools. We are producing too many of the most dangerous person in society. And we are losing out on a key. We're not going to have kids. We're not going to have a productive society. We're going to have more violence. And also, we're going to have a society that does not value young men. And they do not. Young men are different. They develop later. And by the way, if you're a young man, this work from home thing is a disaster. They need young men. Young men need guardrails. They need to know how to read a room. They need to put on a clean shirt. They know not to get high or drink too much during the week and then get into the office the next day. We have a crisis among young men. It is one of the most, in my view, one of the most dangerous things in our society.
And where do you put the phone in this equation? Because I put it high up. Because, thank you.
So then Bill Maher goes on about the phone, how it's mostly men on Tinder. They don't even know how to ask a woman out. All they need to do is go on the app and go, "What's up?" They've lost their ability to communicate. So that's also working against men when they're on their phones a lot. And it's so easy to just be on your phone. I want to play the rest of the clip.
It comes into an industry, it consolidates it. Mating has been consolidated in the worst way. 50 men on Tinder, 50 women. 46 of the women show all of their attention to just 4 men, leaving 46 men pursuing just 4 women. If mating was a country, it would be more unequal than Venezuela. We have huge mating inequality. And here's the problem. When people don't get together and there's no pheromones and there's no vibe, women, and we don't like to say this on the left, primarily try and make very quick assumptions about this individual's ability to garner resources in the future. So what you have is this concentration of interest, and you're ending up with Porsche polygamy, where 10% of the men get 90% of the attention, which does not lead to good behavior or form long-term relationships. E-commerce was disastrous for retail. Social media was disastrous for everybody. Online dating is disastrous for mating and for men. It's terrible.
And this, I feel, has been the most important video that I have made in 10 years. And I'm just going to close it at that, and I'm going to read all of your comments.